spending, I don't know, $5 million on a state-of-the-art hydraulic, laser-guided factory robotic system.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, you get it installed, you calibrate the multi-axis titanium arms, you fire up the software, and then you program this absolute marvel of modern engineering to do exactly one thing.
Let me guess.
You program it to stir your morning coffee.
That is, yeah, that's an incredible visual.
Right. I mean, sure, it's highly capable. It stirs that latte with, like, micron-level precision. But it is entirely disconnected from any meaningful transformative purpose. You just spent $5 million to replace a wooden stir stick.
Exactly. And welcome to the deep dive, because that absurd scenario you just painted, that's actually a pretty accurate description of what some of the biggest companies in the world are doing with artificial intelligence right now.
It really is. It's the uncomfortable reality in almost every major boardroom today. We are so glad you were joining us for this, by the way.
Yeah, because you have these leadership teams pouring just unbelievable amounts of capital into data infrastructure and AI capabilities.
Throwing money at it.
Right. They are buying the absolute top-tier tech on the market, yet they're sitting around the table asking why their business doesn't feel fundamentally transformed.
And that disconnect is exactly our mission for you today. We are pulling from this brilliant, very bluntly titled article by J.D. Parashar. He's the founder and director of Rethynk AI.
Great piece.
The piece is called AI Without Strategy is Just Expensive Automation. And we are also layering in some incredibly telling insights from industry professionals who are, battling this out on the front lines in the comments section.
It's a goldmine of a discussion.
It really is. So
Okay.
The goal here is to give you the exact framework you need to spot the difference between a genuine strategic advantage and, well, a $5 million coffee store.
Right.
Okay, let's unpack this. Where are these massive organizations taking the wrong turn right out of the gate?
Well, they're falling headfirst into what we can call the capability versus purpose trap. Parashar points out that companies almost universally approach AI from a technology-first perspective.
Which means what exactly in practice?
It means they sit down and ask questions like, which platform should we buy? Or can we use a large language model for this? And, to put that in context, a large language model is essentially just a highly advanced pattern matching system.
Like really, really smart predictive text.
Exactly. It predicts the most logical next word in a sequence based on vast amounts of data. It's an incredible capability. But starting the conversation with where can we use this capability is completely backward.
It's focusing entirely on the tool rather than the house you're trying to build.
What's fascinating here is that when you ask those technology-first questions, the initiatives just inherently scatter across the organization. Because think about it, every single department can find a tiny, isolated use for a new tool.
Oh, absolutely. Marketing buys an AI writing assistant to draft social media posts.
Right.
And then HR implements a machine learning tool, a system that learns from data to make categorizations to scan incoming resumes. IT sets up an automated ticketing system.
And on paper, to the executives sitting at the top, that probably looks like progress. I mean, everyone is using AI.
You check the box. We are an AI-driven company now.
Yeah, it looks like progress, but it is actually just fragmentation. You get these isolated, incremental improvements.
A few minutes saved here and there.
Exactly. Maybe a middle manager saves 20 minutes a day drafting emails. But if you zoom out to the enterprise level, the company hasn't actually changed how it competes in the market.
Right.
Its core business model, its value proposition to the customer, none of that has transformed. They have just optimized the edges of their existing workflows.
Which brings us to a massive realization, and something I think everyone listening needs to internalize. Simply making a workflow faster does not mean you are making the business better.
Preach.
Parashar outlines 4 severe limitations pitfalls, really, of relying solely on this automation mindset. And the first one is a hard truth about process design.
Yeah, the inefficiency trap.
Right. If your current workflow is poorly designed, AI doesn't fix it. It just accelerates the inefficiency.
I like to think of traditional automation as putting a brick on the gas pedal of a car. It definitely makes the car go faster.
Right.
But if the steering wheel is locked and the car is pointed at a brick wall, you haven't improved your commute. You are just going to crash much sooner.
That is such a good way to put it.
If a company has this convoluted 10-step internal approval process for expenses that actually realistically only needs 2 steps, putting AI on it doesn't solve the bloat. The AI just executes the 10 unnecessary steps at lightning speed.
But wait, I want to push back on this for a second.
Sure.
If a company is just starting out, Shouldn't they grab that low-hanging fruit? Like, automating a clunky internal process might not be quote-unquote transformative, but isn't it a necessary quick win? Did you need to get some reps in to prove the technology actually works before you bet the farm on it?
I hear that a lot, and getting reps in is fine, but the danger is getting stuck in the shallow end of the pool. And that leads directly to Parishar's second pitfall. The true power of AI, the mechanism that actually upends industries, is not basic task execution. It is the enhancement of decision-making.
Oh, interesting. Decision-making, not just doing chores.
Exactly. When you limit AI to just automating repetitive tasks, like, say, moving data from a PDF into a spreadsheet over and over, you are leaving its massive predictive and analytical potential completely untapped.
You're using a supercomputer as a pocket calculator.
That's exactly it. Let's look at demand forecasting as an example. Traditional software looks at what you sold last year and maybe draws a straight trend line. It is a very static task.
Very reactive.
Right. But a strategic AI deployment, it doesn't just look at past sales. It cross-references last year's data with upcoming global weather patterns, micro delays in international shipping routes, and real-time social media sentiment.
Wow.
And it uses all of that to dynamically predict what you are going to sell next Tuesday.
So that is a fundamental upgrade in how the company decides to stock its warehouses, not just an upgrade in how fast the warehouse manager types up the inventory report.
And the financial difference between those two things is staggering. You are settling for saving pennies on administrative time when the technology is capable of generating millions through superior strategic foresight.
That makes total sense, and it leads perfectly into the third pitfall, which is all about the competitive moat, or really the lack thereof.
Yes, the differentiation problem.
Right. Operational gains do not equal market differentiation. I mean, think about it. If you go out and buy a commercially available AI tool to automate your supply chain logistics, your competitor across the street can call that exact same software vendor and buy the exact same tool tomorrow.
Exactly. The operational improvement just becomes the new baseline for the entire industry. It is table stakes.
That doesn't make you special.
No, not at all. If everyone is running the same off-the-shelf automation software, your competitive advantage remains exactly zero. As Parashar bluntly states, strategy, not tools, creates differentiation. If your strategy is just buy the software, you have no strategy.
Ouch.
Yeah.
But true. And without strategy, you hit the fourth pitfall, which honestly sounds like the scariest one to me.
The risk factor.
Yeah. Introducing massive operational risk by deploying automation without governance. When these powerful systems are unleashed to make, like, thousands of micro decisions a minute without clear strategic guardrails, things go off the rails at scale.
They go off the rails incredibly fast. Governance isn't just bureaucratic red tape. It is the strategic boundary of the system.
What does that look like in reality?
Well, if an algorithm is dynamically adjusting your pricing or interacting directly with your customers through a chatbot, and it hasn't been explicitly anchored to your business's core operational rules, a small error doesn't just happen once.
Right.
It happens 10,000 times before a human even notices. Setting clear parameters is the only way you can actually scale the technology without tearing your own house down.
To really ground this whole capability versus purpose problem in the real world, we have to bring in a comment left on Parashar's article.
Oh, the one from Rishu Anand?
Yes. From Semix at IIT Bombay. Anand points out that this specific gap kills more projects than bad technology ever did.
It's so true.
He paints this vivid picture, right, of how universities or tech companies will build these shiny proof-of-concept innovation labs. The engineers are thrilled, industry partners walk through the lab, they nod their heads at the impressive robotics or the slick AI dashboards.
They're mesmerized by the shiny object.
Exactly. And then they walk out the door asking one fatal question, so what?
The so what test. It is the ultimate filter for any new technology.
And Anand notes that tech teams love to stand there and declare, we have the technology, but the end user, the customer, or the business unit leader, they only care about the statement. Here's the problem it solves.
I don't care about the titanium arms stirring the coffee.
Right. The bridge between we have the tech and here's the problem it solves is where leadership is currently failing. They're buying the tech and just hoping the problem solves itself.
And because hope is not a strategy, these initiatives stall out. You end up with a graveyard of expensive pilot programs that never actually integrate into the core business.
Right.
Organizations desperately need a mechanism to pull themselves out of this trap.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Parashar doesn't just diagnose this boardroom failure. He provides a tangible framework for shifting AI away from mere task automation and turning it into what he calls strategic infrastructure.
I love that term, strategic infrastructure.
And instead of treating this like a checklist, Parashar argues it all begins with the finish line.
Yeah. Step one, you have to define the strategic objective first, and you have to be brutally rigorous about it.
Brutally rigorous.
Yes, the AI initiative must support a clear, measurable business outcome. We are talking about tangible things here, driving net new revenue, fundamentally improving customer retention, or building operational resilience against supply chain shocks.
Real business metrics.
Exactly. If you cannot draw a thick, undeniable line between the AI tool you are buying and one of those core business outcomes, the project is just an expensive science experiment.
Okay, so once that finish line is set, once you know your objective, you don't look for tasks to automate. That's step two.
Yeah.
You look for the decisions that drive that outcome.
Right.
This is about identifying high-impact decision areas. If the goal is revenue growth, the AI shouldn't be focused on, like, formatting the sales reports. It should be focused on dynamic pricing strategies or customer engagement models.
And this requires building what we call a decision architecture.
A decision architecture. What exactly is that?
Think of it as the blueprint for how a choice is actually made inside your company. Who gets what data? When do they get it? How does the AI weigh in on the probability of success before a human executive pulls the trigger?
Oh, I see.
You are structurally inserting intelligence into the moment of choice, rather than just using it to clean up the paperwork after the choice is made.
But to build that architecture,
Right.
and this is step three, you have to break down the massive silos that exist in corporate structures today.
Oh, the silos are the enemy of AI.
Right. You can't just have the IT department buying a tool, configuring it in a vacuum, and tossing it over the fence to the operations team with a sticky note that says, "Good luck, use this now."
That is a recipe for instant rejection by the workforce. People hate that.
They really do.
Yeah.
Successful integration means leadership, technology, and day-to-day operational processes must be fused together. Strategy is the thread that sews them all up.
Yes. The operators need to tell the technologists what decisions are actually hard to make on the floor. And leadership needs to provide the resources and the mandate to change the workflow to support that new intelligence.
Which naturally requires those guardrails we talked about earlier. That's step four. Parashar emphasizes that responsible AI governance isn't an afterthought. It is the enabler.
It's the brakes on the car so you can drive fast safely.
Exactly. By setting non-negotiable boundaries around accountability and transparency, you are actually giving your teams the psychological safety to use the tools at full throttle.
This raises an important question, and it really represents the ultimate shift in perspective that Parashar is demanding of leaders right now.
Which is?
The legacy mindset looks at a company and asks, where can we automate? It looks for friction and tries to grease the wheels.
Just making smoother.
Right. But the new strategic mindset requires looking at the market and asking, how should intelligence shape the way our organization competes?
So what does this all mean? Like, for you, listening to this right now, if you're on your commute, and tomorrow you have to sit in a vendor meeting where someone is pitching a six-figure software contract, or maybe you're prepping for a quarterly review with your department head, how do you actually apply this framework?
You apply it by adopting the perspective of a value driver. There was another excellent comment on the article from Zareen Khan, and she distilled this entire dilemma into one perfect sentence.
I remember this one.
Yeah, she wrote that without a solid strategy and a clear vision articulated at the leadership level, all these shiny new tools simply become cost centers rather than value drivers.
Cost-centered versus value driver. If you take nothing else away from this deep dive, take that. It is the ultimate litmus test for any new technology.
Absolutely.
When the vendor finishes their slick presentation showing how fast their tool can process data, frame the follow-up as a shared realization for your team. You say, this looks incredibly capable, but how do we ensure this becomes a value driver for our core mission, rather than just another operational cost center?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is the entire operational ethos behind Rethynk AI. Parashar and his team focus on translating these heavy technology investments into measurable strategic advantage.
Doing the actual translation work.
Right. They do this by working on leadership AI literacy, consulting on brand alignment, and actually designing those decision architectures we talked about. Because they understand intrinsically that the most advanced code in the world is utterly useless without human leadership to give it a destination.
You have to be the person in the room who demands a destination. You have to be the one who stops the company from buying the multi-million-dollar robot just to stir the coffee.
Please stop buying the coffee robots.
Yes. You have to demand purpose over mere capability. And that wraps up our core exploration of Parashar's framework today. But we do want to leave you with one final provocative thought to turn over in your mind.
Something that pushes the boundary of this entire conversation.
Exactly. If you scroll to the bottom of Parashar's article, you'll see a list of his other published works. And one of those titles jumps right off the screen.
It really does.
It reads, "Competitive advantage is now algorithmic."
Algorithmic.
For decades, centuries, really competitive advantage was built on visible, tangible assets. It was built on prime real estate, massive proprietary manufacturing plants, legacy distribution networks, and heavily on human storytelling and historical brand narratives.
The things you could touch and feel, or the legacy you built.
Right. But if Parashar is right, if the future of strategy truly becomes algorithmic and the companies that dominate are simply the ones who leverage AI to make the best, fastest, and most accurate decisions, what happens to the organizations still relying entirely on traditional human storytelling and legacy physical assets to stand out?
That is the million-dollar question.
How do you defend a moat made of history in a world where your competitor's moat is made of real-time predictive intelligence?
It forces you to completely reevaluate what an asset even is in the modern economy.
It really does. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the shiny new tools, keep demanding that connection to strategic purpose, and most importantly, keep asking those tough why questions in the boardroom. We will catch you next time.